The galaxy had grown quiet. Not quiet like peace, but quiet like fear. Every corner of space, from the smallest mining colonies to the largest city planets, trembled at the mention of the Krelan Empire. They had conquered hundreds of systems, crushed thousands of fleets, and left civilizations begging for mercy. The Krelans were unstoppable. Their warships were vast, armed with weapons so powerful they could shatter planets in minutes. Entire armies dissolved under their advance, and no one had the courage or power to resist. On the bridge of the Krelan flagship, Commander Vashker watched the galaxy like a king surveying his domain. His black uniform reflected the dim red glow of the command console, and his sharp eyes scanned reports that confirmed what he already knew. The galaxy was theirs. Not one fleet remained that could challenge them. Not one system remained unclaimed. Victory had come easily, almost as if the stars themselves bent to their will. "Another system falls today, Commander," said a lieutenant nervously, glancing at the massive display showing a colony under siege. "We have complete control. No resistance." Vashker's lips curved into a cold, satisfied smile. "Of course. There is no one left who can oppose us. No one." Meanwhile, far from the Empire's main fleet, on a small, unremarkable planet at the edge of the Solari cluster, humans went about their daily lives. Most had no idea of the Krelan Empire or the chaos it was spreading across the galaxy. They farmed, traded, and explored the stars, completely unaware that their corner of the galaxy might soon be touched by war. Yet, the humans were not weak. They had hidden technology, weapons, and ships that no one, especially the Krelans, could imagine. It started quietly, almost as a whisper in the darkness. The sensors on Vashker's flagship detected something unusual, a small energy signal, almost too faint to notice. At first, the officers ignored it. The Empire was vast, their fleets powerful, and a single, tiny signal could never pose a threat. "Commander," said a junior officer hesitantly, "there's something on the edge of the Solari cluster. Its energy signature is unlike anything I have seen." Vashker frowned. "Show me." The display lit up with a small, fast-moving object, far smaller than the Empire's cruisers or battleships. It moved with precision, almost as if it knew exactly where it was going. "Just a scout," another officer muttered. "Nothing we can't destroy in a second." But Vashker's instincts whispered differently. He had conquered countless enemies, yet something about this tiny signal unsettled him. He watched as it darted across the sensors, disappearing and reappearing in ways that defied logic. "Prepare a probe," Vashker ordered. "I want eyes on it. I want to know what it is." The probe was launched and sped through space at maximum speed, closing in on the small object. As the crew monitored its approach, the object moved again, faster than expected, evading detection with almost impossible skill. The officers whispered nervously, exchanging worried glances. "Commander," said the lieutenant, his voice tight, "it's moving differently, not like any ship I've ever seen. It's intelligent." Vashker's eyes narrowed. Intelligent or not, it's still small, still weak, and still alone. He pressed a button and a message was sent. "Identify and destroy." But before the Empire could react, the small object did something extraordinary. It emitted a burst of energy that disrupted the probe, frying its sensors and sending it spinning into space. The officers gasped. "Impossible!" shouted one. "How can something that small?" Vashker held up his hand. "Silence. We will deal with it. All units, converge on its location. No mistakes." As the Empire fleet adjusted its course, the tiny ship seemed to anticipate every move. It darted left when they turned right, accelerated when they slowed, and disappeared when they tried to lock onto it. The crew of the flagship was tense. They had conquered countless fleets, wiped out civilizations, and faced enemies far more advanced than this. And yet, this one human ship made them feel vulnerable. Far from the chaos, the human ship drifted silently through space. Its hull was sleek and unassuming, far smaller than any Krelan warship. Yet inside, the crew moved with calm precision. They monitored the approaching Empire fleet, not with fear, but with confidence. Every weapon system, every shield, every thruster was ready. They knew what the galaxy didn't. This moment would change everything. Back on the Krelan flagship, panic began to stir. Fleet commanders exchanged urgent messages, attempting to form a strategy. But no matter how many ships they sent, no matter how many maneuvers they tried, the human ship remained elusive. It moved with intelligence, precision, and purpose. "Commander," said one officer, voice trembling, "it's dodging everything. Every missile, every beam. It's as if it knows our plans before we do." Vashker clenched his fists. "Prepare the fleet's main weapons. Destroy it at all costs. No mistakes this time." The fleet fired. Massive beams of energy cut through the darkness of space, moving at incredible speed. The human ship, however, reacted instantly, deploying small decoys, deflecting attacks, and maneuver with impossible agility. The beams missed, striking empty space, while the tiny ship moved closer and closer to the flagship itself. On the bridge of the Krelan flagship, silence fell. The officers stared in disbelief. It's coming straight for us," whispered one. Vashker's jaw tightened. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But the ship did not attack immediately. Instead, it hovered at the edge of the flagship sensors, almost taunting the Empire. Its energy signature pulsed faintly, a calm challenge in the middle of a galaxy used to fear. "Commander," the lieutenant said, voice low, we have never seen anything like this. No ship, no weapon, no civilization. Nothing could withstand us. And yet, it is here," Vashker finished grimly. "And it refuses to obey the rules of the galaxy." Time seemed to stretch. Every officer felt the weight of that tiny ship in ways they had never felt before. For the first time, the Empire faced uncertainty. Their perfect record, their unbroken victories, now hung by a thread. Suddenly, without warning, the human ship emitted a pulse of light. It was not an attack, at least not yet, but it illuminated the flagship in a bright, almost blinding glow. Instruments faltered, communication scrambled, and a deep hum echoed to the hull of the Krelan warship. Shields holding. Vashker barked. "Yes, Commander, barely," the lieutenant replied, sweat on his brow. The pulse faded, leaving behind silence. And in that silence, every officer on the flagship realized something terrifying. The tiny human ship had changed the rules. The galaxy was no longer predictable. The Empire was no longer unstoppable. Vashker's mind raced. He had faced gods, monsters, and entire fleets. Yet here he was, staring at one ship and feeling fear. The very thought was foreign, almost unbearable. The human ship, meanwhile, continued its approach. It did not fire, it did not scream, it did not threaten openly. It simply moved, silent and confident, as if the galaxy itself belonged to it. On distant worlds, sensors across the conquered planets flickered as the Krelan fleet struggled with the anomaly. Reports came in, energy surges, weapon malfunctions, strange readings. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. "Have you seen a human ship?" Back on the flagship, Vashker slammed his hand onto the command console. "All units, focus. Surround it. Do not let it escape." But even as the fleet adjusted, the human ship was gone. It vanished as subtly as it had appeared, leaving only a faint trail of energy in its wake. The Krelan searched frantically, scanning sector by sector, but it was gone. For the first time in generations, the Krelan Empire faced the unknown. The galaxy had been theirs, but now one human ship had stood in their way. And in that moment, a seed of doubt was planted, a tiny but powerful idea that maybe, just maybe, the Empire was not as invincible as it believed. Vashker's eyes burned with a mix of rage and curiosity. "Find it," he ordered. "No matter where it goes, we will find it. And when we do..." He did not finish. Words felt inadequate. The galaxy had shifted under his feet, and he could feel it. The human ship, silent and solitary, drifted into the darkness. Its mission was clear, its purpose unshakable. The galaxy, vast and indifferent, did not yet understand the storm that had arrived. But one thing was certain. The balance of power had begun to change. And for the first time in centuries, the Krelan Empire felt vulnerable. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. One small, unassuming human ship had shattered the confidence of the mighty Krelan Empire. For centuries, the Empire had crushed every resistance, every fleet, every planet that dared oppose them. But now, a single ship had changed the rules of war. On the bridge of the Krelan flagship, Commander Vashker paced, his heavy boots echoing across the metallic floor. The crew was tense, their faces pale under the red glow of the command consoles. No one spoke at first. The atmosphere was thick with fear. Every officer remembered the pulse of energy the human ship had sent through their systems, disabling weapons and shields for a brief, terrifying moment. "Commander," one officer finally spoke, voice shaking. "Our fleets are ready, but I must admit, we do not know what we are dealing with. Its technology, it is unlike anything in our records." Vashker's eyes narrowed. Technology or not, it is still one ship, alone, and alone can be destroyed. Prepare the fleet. We strike at first light. No mistakes. Outside the flagship, the Krelan fleets move like a tidal wave across the Solari cluster. Thousands of warships, sleek and menacing, bristle with weapons. Their engines glowed as they adjusted formations, spreading out the corner of the human ship. Communications crackled across the fleets, orders, coordinates, predictions. Every officer thought victory was imminent. Far from the Empire's massive fleets, the human ship floated silently in the void. Its small hull, barely visible on most scanners, shimmered with energy shields. Inside, the crew moved with calm efficiency. They did not panic. They did not fear. They were humans, and they were prepared. Sensors showed them converging, said Captain Alara, a young but confident human commander. Her eyes glowed with determination. "They think numbers will overwhelm us. Let them learn otherwise." Her crew nodded. Every weapon system was active, every shield tuned, every strategy calculated. Humans have been underestimated for centuries, and they had learned the value of cunning, precision, and patience. As the Krelan fleets approached, the human ship's sensors tracked every movement. The Empire believed in brute force, overwhelming power, and intimidation. Humans believed in speed, agility, and surprise. And for the first time, the two approaches would collide. The first shots came suddenly. The Empire fired long-range energy beams, arcs of deadly light slicing across space. The human ship responded instantly, deploying decoys that mimicked its signature. The beams struck decoys, exploding in flashes of light that lit up the void. On the flagship, alarms blared. Officers shouted over the noise of failing systems. "Commander, they are evading everything. Our weapons cannot lock on." Vashker's jaw clenched. "Focus. Track all signals. Do not let it escape." The human ship did not attack immediately. Instead, it danced to the Empire's fleet like a shadow, moving in impossible patterns that made targeting it nearly hopeless. Every maneuver was precise, almost like it could predict the Krelan's intentions before they made them. Captain Alara, her first officer, said, "They are coordinating for a pincer. If we hold this course, we may be trapped." Alara's gaze was steady. "Good. Let them trap themselves. We strike where they think we cannot." The Empire's fleet closed in. Massive cruisers, destroyers, and warships surrounded the tiny human vessel. The Krelans unleashed volleys of missiles, beams, and plasma bursts. Each strike missed by inches. The human ship weaved and darted, unleashing countermeasures, while small energy pulses from its hull disabled targeting systems on nearby Krelan ships. On the flagship, Vashker's fury boiled. Increase power to main weapons. Destroy it now. Missiles screamed across the void. Ships shook as energy blasts collided with shields and hulls. Yet the human ship remained unscathed, moving as if the chaos around it was nothing more than a game. Then it struck. Without warning, the human ship fired a single concentrated beam at Krelan cruiser. The beam cut through armor like a knife through silk. Explosions tore the cruiser apart, sending debris spinning into space. The Krelans were stunned. One ship had been destroyed by a single, small human vessel. "Impossible!" an officer shouted. "One ship? How?" Vashker's face was pale, his pride wounded more than his body. "It is human." The human ship moved again, faster this time. It targeted weak points in the fleet, striking with precision. Cruiser after cruiser was damaged or destroyed. The Empire used overwhelming force, had never faced an enemy who could evade attacks, anticipate their moves, and strike back with deadly accuracy. Captain Alara, her first officer, said, "They are regrouping. A battleship is approaching, much larger than anything we've seen." Alara smiled faintly. "Good. The bigger they are, the easier the target. Watch and learn." The massive battleship advanced, its weapons glowing with devastating energy. It fired indiscriminately, hoping to catch the human ship. But humans did not fight like the Krellans expected. They struck not with raw power, but with intelligence. The human ship dodged, fired weak pulses to disable key systems, and then vanished from sensors, only to reappear behind the battleship. Then came the attack that shocked the galaxy. With a burst of concentrated energy, the human ship struck the battleship's main reactor. The explosion was massive, brighter than any star nearby. The shock wave rocked the surrounding fleet, sending ships spinning out of formation. Alarm sirens blared across every Krelan vessel. Vashker slammed his fists onto the console. "This is impossible. How can one ship?" His officers had no answer. The human ship, small and unassuming, had just destroyed a battleship larger than many of their cruisers combined. The Empire, for the first time, tasted fear. Across the fleet, chaos spread. Krelan commanders shouted orders, but no plan seemed effective. Every attack was countered, every maneuver anticipated. The human ship was everywhere and nowhere at once. Meanwhile, on board the human vessel, the crew remained calm. They did not celebrate victories, nor did they fear losses. They simply executed their plan. Every pulse, every strike, every maneuver was calculated. The humans had learned the galaxy's rules, and now they were rewriting them. On the flagship, Vashker's mind raced. He had faced gods, monsters, and entire fleets. Yet here he was, confronting a single ship that defied everything he knew about war. "Commander," an officer said nervously, "we are losing ships at an unprecedented rate. We cannot predict its moves. It is intelligent." Vashker's eyes burned with rage. Intelligent or not, it is one ship, and one ship can still be destroyed. But as the Empire focused on attacking the human vessel, Alara executed a move no one expected. The ship split its energy output, creating multiple holographic decoys. Each decoy mirrored the real ship perfectly, moving and firing as if it were real. The Krellans attacked decoys, wasting energy and ammunition, while the real ship struck from angles they could not anticipate. One by one, the Krelan ships fell. Some were destroyed, some disabled, and some drifted helplessly as their crews panicked. The human ship moved through the fleet with deadly precision, leaving chaos in its wake. "Captain Alara," the first officer said, on his voice, "the Empire, they are faltering. They are scared." Alara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Good. Fear is a weapon they do not expect. Let it work for us." In the darkness of space, the Krelan flagship's bridge was in uproar. Officers screamed over each other, orders clashed, and the sounds of destruction echoed through communications channels. The Empire, once confident and unstoppable, now faced a reality they had never imagined. One human ship could challenge everything they had built. Vashker gritted his teeth. "Do not let it escape," he shouted, voice booming over the chaos. "Focus all firepower." But the humans were already planning their next move. Alara glanced at her sensors, watching the fleet falter. "Prepare the final pulse," she said. "We finished this." A concentrated burst of energy shot from the human ship, targeting the center of the remaining formation. The blast tore through multiple ships at once. The Empire fleet shuddered, alarms blaring, systems failing. The Krellans could only watch in disbelief as their dominance crumbled, piece by piece, under the hands of a single, small human vessel. When the smoke cleared, the human ship remained, alone, silent, and unscathed. The Krellans, defeated but alive, retreated in disarray, leaving behind wreckage, debris, and a shaken empire. On the human ship, the crew allowed themselves a moment of relief. They had done what many thought impossible. They had survived the first encounter, and they had won. Alara stared at the stars, calm and confident. "This is only the beginning," she said quietly. "The galaxy has no idea what is coming. And in that moment, the first true spark of resistance was lit. One human ship had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy and survived. The story of the galaxy's most unexpected hero had just begun. The Krelan Empire had always been certain of its place in the galaxy. Their fleets dominated every sector. Their fleets crushed every resistance, and their enemies had long learned to bow before their might. But after the encounter with the human ship, certainty became doubt, arrogance became fear, and confidence crumbled into panic. On the bridge of the Krelan flagship, Commander Vashker stood in silence, staring at the damage reports streaming across his display. Entire squadrons had been crippled or destroyed by a single ship. The energy signatures, speed, and tactical movement of the human vessel were unlike anything in Krelan military history. "This cannot be," he muttered under his breath. "One ship, just one how?" The officers around him were panicked. Normally disciplined, their voices shook as they shouted orders to regroup the fleet, to scan for weaknesses, to find any clue about the humans. Yet all attempts failed. The tiny ship moved faster than their sensors could track, and its energy signatures were unpredictable. "Commander," a young lieutenant said nervously, "the humans, they are different. Their ship, it moves almost as if it thinks ahead of us. It predicts our moves before we make them." Vashker's eyes narrowed. "Predicts?" "Yes, sir," the lieutenant continued. "It's not just speed, it's intelligence. Tactical intelligence. We cannot match it with numbers alone." Vashker slammed his fist onto the console. "Then we adapt. Prepare a recon mission. I want eyes on that ship. Find out everything. Its weapons, shields, technology. Everything." Meanwhile, light years away, the human ship glided silently through the void. Its sleek hull reflected starlight, small yet deadly. Inside, Captain Alera and her crew remained calm, almost serene, despite the chaos they had left behind. "Captain," said her first officer, glancing at the displays, "the Empire will not forget this. They will regroup, and they will come back stronger." Alera's gaze was steady. "Good. Let them come. We will be ready. The galaxy thinks humans are weak. That is their first mistake. The human ship's secret was simple, yet deadly. Humans had spent decades developing technology in ways the galaxy had never seen. Their weapons were advanced, yes, but what made them unstoppable was strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. Every weapon system was modular. Every shield could adapt mid-combat. Every engine could push the ship to limits that others deemed impossible. And more importantly, humans had learned to observe, predict, and outthink their enemies. The Krellans relied on strength, numbers, and overwhelming power. Humans relied on cunning. They did not fight the way anyone expected. Back on the Krelan flagship, Vashker's intelligence officers were working frantically. They scanned debris fields, analyzed energy patterns, and tried to reconstruct the battle. But every attempt led to more questions than answers. "Commander," one officer said, voice trembling, "we cannot identify the weapon systems. Even the debris we collected shows nothing familiar. It's alien, but not alien enough to be beyond humans." Vashker clenched his teeth. "Then it is time to escalate. I want spies. I want infiltration. I want to know how humans can do this. We will find them, and we will destroy them." But even as he spoke, the humans were already several light years away, hiding in the shadows of uncharted systems, preparing their next move. Their mission was clear. Survive, strike with precision, and let the galaxy learn a lesson it would never forget. In the Empire's command chambers, fear began to spread. Reports from every sector confirmed the same story. Human scouts, human colonies, and even rumors of a single ship were causing chaos. Officers whispered in corners, wondering if the Krellans had underestimated humanity for too long. It is impossible," said one general, shaking his head. "How can a species we have ignored for centuries have this kind of technology, this kind of skill?" Another officer, older and more cynical, shrugged. "They are clever, yes, but they cannot stop the Empire. Numbers, strength, fleets, they are nothing compared to us. This ship, it is an anomaly. We crush anomalies." Yet even as they spoke, the Krelan fleets were redeploying. Every commander knew the human ship would return, and every officer feared it. The galaxy had learned a new word: fear the unexpected. Meanwhile, the humans used this fear to their advantage. Captain Alara had studied the Krellans, their patterns, their arrogance, and their blind trust in power. The Empire believed in numbers, but humans believed in precision. Where the Krellans scattered energy across dozens of weapons, humans concentrated it exactly where it would count. Where the Krellans attacked openly, humans struck from shadows. Alara, her first officer, said, "Our next move will take us into the heart of their fleets. Are we ready?" "We have no choice," Alara replied calmly. "The galaxy will not wait, and neither will they. Every moment we hesitate, their fear grows, and with fear comes mistakes." And the Krellans were already making mistakes. Vashker, desperate to regain control, ordered his fleets to divide, to corner, and to trap. But human strategy was more advanced than mere brute force. The tiny ship exploited every weakness, every misstep. It moved like a ghost, striking where the enemy least expected, vanishing before retaliation could come. In one daring maneuver, the human ship approached a heavily armed Krelan station, dodging defensive beams and missiles. With a single pulse of energy, it disabled the station's core systems, sending alarms screaming across the network. The Empire scrambled reinforcements, but the humans were already gone, leaving only a trail of stunned silence. "Impossible," Vashker whispered, staring at the reports. "How can one tiny ship, cause this much chaos?" The fear was not just tactical, it was psychological. The Krellans had always believed themselves untouchable, their dominance unquestioned. One human ship had shattered that belief. Officers who once gave orders with confidence now hesitated. Entire fleets froze at the mere possibility of encountering humans. On the human ship, the crew knew exactly the effect they had on the enemy. They did not gloat, but they allowed themselves a small sense of satisfaction. The galaxy had dismissed humans for too long. Now, humans were reminding everyone, never underestimate the underestimated. Captain Alara studied the star charts, plotting their next move. The Empire would retaliate, of course. They always did. But humans had something the Krellans could never understand: adaptability, creativity, and the ability to exploit fear. The Empire's panic grew. Every failed attack, every lost ship, every miscalculated maneuver added to it. Officers argued, commanders blamed each other, and fleets moved in disarray. The humans, unseen and unchallenged, remained in control of the chaos they had created. And then came the whispers. Across the conquered systems, reports began to spread. The humans, they are not just one ship. They are everywhere. They are clever. They are fast. They cannot be defeated. Vashker slammed his fist against the console again. This cannot continue. Find them, track them, destroy them before they spread their chaos. But it was too late. The human ship was already several light years ahead, moving silently through uncharted space. Captain Alara smiled faintly as she looked at her crew. "The galaxy will learn," she said softly, "that humans are not to be ignored. Not now. Not ever." And in that moment, one truth became clear. The Krelan Empire, the greatest force in the galaxy, had finally met an enemy it could not predict, an enemy it could not control. For the humans, the mission was just beginning. For the Krellans, fear had taken root, and panic would guide their next moves. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had been shaken. For the first time in its history, the Krelan Empire faced a threat it could not control. Entire fleets had been crippled by a single human ship, and panic now ruled the minds of commanders across the stars. Commander Vashker could not tolerate this humiliation. One ship, one small, unassuming vessel, had embarrassed the might of the Empire, and now it was time to strike back. On the bridge of the flagship, alarms blared, red lights flashing across the metallic floor. Officers moved quickly, checking reports and coordinating fleets. Vashker's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Focus all firepower. Assemble all fleets in the Solari cluster. We strike at once. No hesitation. No mercy." The Empire had never relied on stealth, clever maneuvers, or subtlety. They relied on power, numbers, and terror. And now, For the first time, all of those strengths would be unleashed together. The fleet stretched across dozens of light years, thousands of ships, countless weapons, and commanders eager to restore the Empire's pride. Meanwhile, the human ship drifted calmly through space, its small hull glowing faintly under distant starlight. Captain Alara studied the reports coming from the edge of sensors. The Empire was gathering, a massive fleet, hundreds, maybe thousands of warships, all moving toward them. "Captain," her first officer said, tension in his voice, "they are coming. They are preparing an all-out attack. We will not survive if they coordinate correctly." Alara's gaze was steady, almost serene. "Good. Let them come. Let them see how humans fight. We will not retreat. We will strike." The Krelan fleets converged, forming massive battle formations around the Solari cluster. Energy beams glowed across space, weapons powered to maximum, and communications buzzed with urgency. Every officer wanted victory, and yet fear lingered in their hearts. The memory of the last encounter, of their destroyed cruisers and faltering command, haunted them. "Commander Vashker," one officer said, "our projections show the human ship is small, but its movement patterns unpredictable. It anticipates our moves." Vashker's jaw tightened. "Then we adapt. We will corner it, trap it in the center of the cluster. It cannot escape if we surround it." The humans, however, had already calculated this. Captain Alara plotted a course that would lure the Empire into overconfidence. Humans did not rely on size or numbers. They relied on precision, cunning, and unpredictability. Every move the Krellans made, the humans had anticipated. As the fleets closed in, the first shots were fired. Massive Krelan cruisers unleashed energy beams that lit up the darkness of space. Missiles streaked toward the human ship, explosions scattering in the void. The human ship did not panic. It danced between volleys of fire, using decoys and energy pulses to confuse targeting systems. Where the Empire relied on brute force, humans relied on agility and calculation. "Captain," the first officer said, "we cannot outgun them. We must outthink them." Alara nodded. "Exactly. Let's see how they respond to intelligence instead of power." The human ship moved closer to the heart of the Empire fleet. Every strike it made was precise. Small bursts of energy disabled key systems on cruisers and destroyers. Missiles detonated prematurely as targeting systems went offline. The Krellans could not believe what they were witnessing. One tiny ship dismantling their formations, causing chaos in their meticulously organized fleet. Vashker's hand slammed on the console. "Focus all fire. Destroy that ship before it destroys us all." But the humans were already executing their next move. In a daring maneuver, the ship split its energy into multiple pulses, creating holographic duplicates. Each duplicate mirrored the real ship perfectly, moving and firing in all directions. The Krellans attacked the decoys, wasting missiles, energy, and time, while the real ship struck weak points no one expected. One cruiser exploded under a single strike, its debris spinning in the void. Another battleship's shields failed instantly, and alarms screamed across every Krelan vessel. Officers shouted, orders collided, and panic spread. Vashker's face burned with fury. Impossible. One ship cannot cause as much damage. One ship. But the humans were just beginning. Captain Alara executed a series of daring maneuvers, weaving in and out of the fleet with impossible precision. Each strike targeted critical systems, engines, weapons, command centers. Every attack was calculated to maximize impact while avoiding unnecessary risk. The Krellans realized, too late, that brute force alone could not win this battle. Their numbers were meaningless against intelligence, precision, and strategy. "Captain," the first officer said, on his voice, "they are faltering. The fleets, they cannot keep formation. We are breaking them." Alara allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Let fear guide their mistakes." And the Empire made mistakes. They overcompensated, redirecting fleets to protect damaged ships. They concentrated fire in one area, leaving another completely exposed. The humans exploited every error. Another cruiser was destroyed, followed by two more, as the Krelan scrambled to react. Vashker gritted his teeth. "All units, do not let it escape. Focus on the center of the formation. But the human ship had already vanished from sensors, reappearing behind the central fleet. A concentrated energy beam cut through a massive battleship's hull, causing catastrophic explosions that rocked the surrounding ships. Chaos erupted. The once perfect Empire formation was in shambles. From the bridge of the human ship, Ilera watched the devastation with calm efficiency. "The galaxy has always underestimated humans," she said softly. "It's time they learn." The Krelans, despite their advanced technology and overwhelming numbers, were now in full retreat. Officers shouted orders, tried to regroup, and attempted to salvage what remained of their fleets. But the human ship continued to strike, using speed, strategy, and unpredictability to dismantle formations piece by piece. Vashker's fury boiled. This cannot continue. Focus everything on it. Destroy it. But every attack failed. The humans were always one step ahead, always precise, always untouchable. One by one, Krelan ships fell, drifting helplessly as their weapon systems failed. The Empire had brought its full might to battlefield, yet was powerless against a single, cunning human ship. After hours of relentless battle, the human ship finally withdrew. Its hull was unharmed, its crew calm. The Empire, however, had suffered losses it had never imagined. Ships were destroyed, crews were dead, and pride had been shattered. On the bridge of the Krelan flagship, Vashker stared at the reports in silence. He had faced countless enemies, yet nothing had prepared him for this. One small human ship had defeated thousands. One ship had changed the course of the galaxy. "Commander," a lieutenant said quietly, They are leaving, but they will return. And next time, they will be prepared for us." Vashker's eyes burned with rage and determination. "Then we prepare too. We will learn from this. We will rebuild. And next time, we will crush them." Meanwhile, the human ship glided silently into uncharted space, its mission far from over. Captain Ilera looked at her crew. "This was the first battle," she said. "The Empire has seen humans in action. They have learned to fear us. But the war has only begun." The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. One small human ship had stood against the might of the greatest empire in history, and had won. The story of humanity, once dismissed, was now being written in fire and energy across the stars. And the Krelan Empire, though wounded and humiliated, had only one thought in mind: find the humans, destroy them, and reclaim their dominance. The stage was set. The next encounter would be deadlier, more unpredictable, and more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But humans were ready, and the galaxy was about to learn that being underestimated was the greatest mistake one could ever make. The galaxy was quiet once more, but it was a different quiet. It was not the quiet of fear or submission, as it had been under Krelan Empire for centuries. It was a quiet born from uncertainty, awe, and disbelief. Across the stars, fleets lay in ruin. Entire command networks were paralyzed, and the greatest empire in the galaxy trembled at the thought of a single human ship. Commander Vashker stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the battlefield reports. His eyes, sharp and calculating, were bloodshot with frustration. Thousands of Krelan warships had engaged a human vessel in the Solari cluster. Tens of thousands of crew members had been lost, and yet the human ship remained untouched, silent, and deadly. "How?" he whispered, almost to himself. "How can one ship do this to us?" His officers exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen the destruction firsthand. Battleships shattered, cruisers drifting helplessly, fleets in chaos. Nothing in Krelan history had prepared them for this. The human ship was not just a threat. It was a symbol of everything they had ignored for centuries: intelligence, cunning, and the ability to turn fear into power. "Commander," one lieutenant said, voice trembling. "The humans, they are still out there. They have not retreated. Their energy signatures show movement, but we cannot predict where they will strike next." Vashker's jaw tightened. "Then we regroup. We repair. We rebuild. And we strike back with everything we have." Far from the chaos, the human ship moved silently through uncharted space. Its hull, small and unassuming, reflected distant starlight. Inside, Captain Ilera studied the reports from the last battle. "Captain," her first officer said, concern in his voice. The Krellans will not give up. They will come back stronger, bigger, more prepared. We cannot predict their next move completely. Illyra's eyes were calm, steady, and unyielding. Good, she said quietly. Let them come. They will fight with power. We will fight with precision. And when the next battle comes, they will learn that humans do not follow the rules of fear. The human crew had not celebrated. Victory for them was not a moment. It was preparation. They understood that the galaxy, and especially the Krelan Empire, had underestimated humans for too long. And now, humanity would teach a lesson that would echo across the stars. Back in the Empire, Vashker called an emergency council. Commanders from all sectors joined via holographic communication. The mood was tense. Reports of failure, destroyed fleets, and strategic mistakes poured in. Commander Vashker, one general began, voice tight. Our fleets are scattered. Our ships are damaged. Our systems disrupted and morale low. We cannot contain them. Not yet. Vashker's gaze was icy. Contain them? No, we will not contain them. We will destroy them. Every ship, every planet, every crew member associated with humans. They will regret the day they crossed us. A younger officer spoke up. Commander, we can strike. Yes, but they're intelligent. Every move they make, they anticipate us. We cannot predict them. Then we change the rules. Vashker said firmly, we will adapt. We will divide our forces. We will block their paths, and we will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Humanity has not seen the full power of the Krelan Empire yet. Meanwhile, the humans had already calculated this. Captain Illyra reviewed the Empire's predicted response patterns. They will divide, she said. They will try to corner us. They believe numbers can overwhelm intelligence. Let's see how well that works. The human ship moved with surgical precision, dodging Krelan scanners, manipulating energy fields, and targeting critical points on supply vessels and command ships. Every strike was calculated to disrupt formations, creating chaos and confusion. Where the Empire relied on sheer force, humans relied on intelligence, adaptability, and unpredictability. Then came the moment that would mark the turning point in the war. The Krellans had gathered a massive fleet, concentrating power at the heart of the Solari cluster. Thousands of warships, all focused on one point, their energy weapons glowing, shields at maximum. They believed that concentrated might would finally crush the human ship. Captain Illyra's eyes scanned the display. They think they can trap us, she said. Let them. They do not understand humans. We do not fight their way. We fight ours. With a burst of energy, the human ship launched a series of decoys, each one mimicking the real vessel perfectly. The Krellans fired at the decoys, wasting missiles, energy, and precious seconds. While the fleet's attention was divided, the human ship struck from the side, targeting the central command cruiser. The explosion was massive, sending shockwaves across the formation. Shields failed on nearby ships, engines stalled, and panic spread through the ranks. The Krelan fleet, once disciplined and deadly, descended into chaos. Officers shouted orders, but no command could restore control. The humans moved like a ghost, striking where no one expected, vanishing before retaliation could arrive. Vashker's face turned red with rage. All units, do not retreat. Do not let them escape. Focus everything on them. But even as he shouted, the humans executed another maneuver. The ship split energy outputs, firing concentrated pulses that disabled multiple cruisers at once. The Krelan scrambled to react, but every attack was countered. In less than an hour, the massive fleet had been crippled. Commanders were dead or incapacitated. Ships drifted powerless in space, some ablaze, others silent. The Empire's pride had been shattered, its fleets humiliated. Captain Illyra, her first officer, whispered, awe in his voice, We have done it. The Empire, they are retreating. Illyra nodded, eyes calm. We have won this battle, but the war continues. They will regroup, they will strike again. But for now, we have proven something. Humans are not to be underestimated. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Planets that had feared Krelan rule whispered of the tiny human ship that had stood against the greatest empire and survived. Across sectors, spies and scouts reported similar sightings, humans acting with precision, destroying ships and disappearing without a trace. The Krellans, meanwhile, were in full retreat. Commander Vashker had no choice but to withdraw his fleets, regroup, and reconsider strategy. His pride was wounded, his empire embarrassed, and his soldiers shaken. One thing was clear. Humans were no longer a threat to ignore. Back on the human ship, Captain Alara looked out into the vast emptiness of space. "The galaxy will remember this day," she said softly. "Not for our ships, not for our weapons, but for the courage and skill of humanity. They thought us weak. They thought us insignificant. And now they know better." Her first officer smiled faintly. "What's next, Captain?" Ilara's eyes gleamed. "Next, we prepare. We learn. We strike again when the time is right. The galaxy has underestimated humans for centuries. That mistake will not happen again." For the first time, the Krelan Empire had tasted defeat. Not from numbers, not from power, but from a single human ship. Fear had replaced arrogance. Panic had replaced confidence. And across the stars, one undeniable truth became clear. Humanity had arrived. The balance of power had shifted. The galaxy would never be the same again. And in the quiet aftermath of battle, one thing was certain. The Krelan Empire had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were not just survivors. They were strategists, warriors, and masters of the unexpected. The human ship glided silently through the void, unscathed, unstoppable, and ready for whatever the galaxy would throw next. One ship had changed the fate of the galaxy. One ship had shown the universe that humans were not to be underestimated. And one ship had begun a story that would echo across generations. The Krellans had retreated. The humans had triumphed. But the war had only just begun.